Okay, hi guys. Let us today talk about analyzing poems or poetry analysis. And today we are going to analyze a poem known as Your Roast by Isaac Mruma. A Tanzanian poet and a journalist. Okay, this poem here, of course, talks about a true love. So we recognize that this poem talks about untrue love by tracing back to the content of the poem as it reads. So let me recite the poem. Let me start with the first stanza, but remember the title of the poem is You Are Lost. You are lost. To you, Dada, it's the days that matter, for we are unable to chat in the language we had. The first stanza. The second, when I look at you and see my payslip in your eyes, I feel empty and sapped. That is the second. The third, your grace, sister, is to me the measure of the heat of the Tao in my pocket. The third. The fourth, never a patient school, to you I'm now a tool, and all my wage is now the fare. I ride on your throbbing kisses. The fifth stanza. It is you I accuse, because your love is lost, and you only touch me with the tenderness that asks where my wallet is. Sixth stanza. It is to you, Dada, that my pen tears the pad, for I only see your love focused on my purse, with your passions chasing my bank account. So in analyzing the poems, there are some criteria or some procedures that we are supposed to follow. One of these procedure or criteria are like to know the background of the poet or poetess. The second is to know the title of the poem, form of the poem. Then after form, you know the tone of the poet or the tone of the poem itself, or the tone of the persona or poetess. But you have to remember that a poetess or poet is quite different from persona, because poet or poetess refers to one who composes poems, while persona refers to speaking voice in the poem. So you have to recognize that sometimes a poet may be rich, but the one speaking the poem may be poor. So the persona must be the poor person. So it is not necessarily for the poet to be persona. So there are so many criteria we use, like to identify the rhythm of the poem, to identify the type of the poem, to know the language manipulation or language use, etc., etc. These are some of the criteria that we use when we want to analyze a poem. So let us now try to analyze the poem which I have recited earlier concerning You Are Lost by Isaac Mruma. Let us start with the background of the poet. As I have said that Isaac Mruma is a Tanzanian poet and he is a journalist. So let us now try to analyze the poem by starting with the elements of literature which are form and content. Let us start with the form. On the part of the form, we will look at the title of the poem. The title of the poem is You Are Lost. This poem is about an individual, as I have said, complaining about untrue love, which means that his lover or girlfriend is unfaithful because she pretends to love him, but her love is for money only. Therefore, the girl is a hypocrite, exploitative, and prostitute, as we have recited in the poem when the persona says that when I look at you and see my payslip in your eyes, I feel empty and sapped. And when he also says that it is you I accuse because your love is lost, and you only touch me with the tenderness that asks where my wallet is. Where my wallet is, this means that this girl is on there for money, for economic purposes. So, from the title of the poem, now we have recognized that the poem talks about the mpelekee mama, sawa mpelekee mama. Okay, so the figures of speech that can be depicted from You Are Lost are like barbarism. Barbarism is the use of familiar language in the poem. For instance, the poem You Are Lost is written in English, but we see some Swahili words found, like words dada. Dada is a Swahili word meaning sister in English, so that is barbarism. So the word dada is found in first and sixth stanza, as I said. The other figure of speech used is repetition. Remember, repetition is a figure of speech whereby words or sentences are repeated in the poem. So, as we have said, the word dada also is repeated. There are so many words which are repeated in this word, in this poem. For instance, when says the word it's you, to you, the word you have been repeated in stanza more frequently, so that is the use of repetition. And we have to recognize that we normally use repetition when we want to emphasize a certain theme or a certain theme, and also we use repetitions when also we want to make music in the poem. We want to make music in a poem, is where we can use repetition. So we repeat words to emphasize things. How? Because this word, for instance, you in the poem is used to emphasize that now the persona seems the lover or his lover is no longer a girlfriend, rather is like just his sister, no longer a lover. So another figure of speech used in the poem is imagery. Remember, imagery is the figure of speech which uses some images or some words which create mental pictures.